moderating a panel on a subject that I'm really passionate about. It's called conscious capitalism. It's the whole notion that businesses should exist for more than the benefit of just their shareholders, right? It should exist for their suppliers, their employees, their community, the environment, and arguably even mankind. You know, in June of 2010, something really extraordinary happened in the world of philanthropy. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett began recruiting for what is known as the Giving Pledge. So for those of you who don't know what the Giving Pledge is, it's a pledge by the wealthiest individuals in the world, many of them billionaires, to commit to give away the majority of their assets during their lifetime or afterwards in their will. So as of August of that year, the aggregate wealth of the first 40 pledgers was $125 billion. Now there's 138 pledgers, the latest of which is Mark Zuckerberg, committed to give away 99% of his wealth, at the time valued at $45 billion. The term that best describes these activities was coined by Whole Foods CEO John Mackey, called conscious capitalism. And conscious capitalism describes a business that serves the interest of not only stockholders, but all major stakeholders: customers, employees, suppliers, communities, the environment, and even humankind. See? He even wrote a book about it, and I think you'd all be best served to read this book. Rest assured that companies can do well by doing good. Here's a stat. According to Nielsen's Global Survey on Corporate Responsibility, 43% of global consumers said they're willing to spend more for a product or service that supports a cause. We have a great panel today. We've got individuals that touch conscious capitalism in a variety of ways. I'd like to ask each of our panelists to maybe share a personal story that might have given them the insight and sort of the impetus to incorporate conscious capitalism in their business endeavors. So let's start with you, Jeff.
I started my first business essentially the day after I graduated from college, which I know a lot of people have done. So I never worked for anyone else in my professional life, and still haven't. So when I was building and growing this business, I sort of didn't know any better. I didn't know that you were supposed to treat employees like a cost center. So I wanted to treat employees like people and see if I could get them to be really engaged in our success. I didn't know that we were supposed to try and squeeze suppliers. I thought we wanted to get suppliers on our side so they would help us, get better. I didn't know that you were supposed to try and externalize costs if you could. So I sort of just started down this path because I didn't really know any better.
And so Che had an eye-opening moment where he realized the value of education in his life, and so he said, well, I'm going to set up my money aside in terms of equity and in terms of cash, which will fund your employees' kids' education, so not the employee's education, because I would have loved for him to pay off my MBA debt.
But we invest now in solar and recycling, efficiency, education, health and wellness companies. Basically companies where if you told your grandma this company's gone from a few million to a few hundred million, in addition to thinking, wow, you did very well, the employees did well, they'd say, wow, society's better for it. Things have, it's just an aha moment.
For me, it was just a very real, obvious decision, was that, when I create a business, when I start a business, there was going to be an absolutely integrated, give back in my company.
A number of years ago when the Tea Party and the Occupy movement occurred, I stepped back and I saw that they had much more in common than what separated them. Basically, the Joes and the Marys of the world were saying that y'all are not talking to me, and y'all was either Wall Street or the federal government. And I thought that there was much more in common than what separated them. Companies are really concerned about this. They're spending billions of dollars on corporate social responsibility, but there's been a disconnect because they've never been able to know whether what they're doing is actually helping produce an ROI or potentially losing customers that they could otherwise have. And so Spend Consciously is kind of at the forefront of kind of building that bridge between three markets: people, companies, and the tribes that we belong to.
So as I said before, 43% global consumers willing to spend more for a product or service that supports a cause. But I saw two other statistics recently. Case Foundation says 88% of millennials choose employers with strong corporate social responsibility programs, and 86% would consider leaving if corporate values no longer met their expectations. So I'm wondering, where have you guys seen the value, and what comments have come back, either within your customer base, your supplier base, or your customers, suppliers, or employees?
But I think the number one impact we've seen is, at least on as an employee, I feel like in recruiting. So most of the people that we interview now, they're like, oh yeah, I saw the video that Che was on, and this is really cool, and I'm here for that reason. And so I think we have seen a massive, massive benefit in hiring. Obviously, we have also seen kind of retention to be really high, because all the employees who really have put in hard work for the company now want to stay.
We have the absolute top of the top employees because we're a mission-driven company. Not only do they stand behind our give back mission and our programs, but they also stand behind our product that works for women here too.
David, I don't know if you've seen this too, but there's another stat that's really important for us, is that not only do millennials make decisions about where they want to work and who they want to buy from based on this, millennials are about to get $30 trillion in assets passed to them. They're the largest cohort in the history of the United States. They make those decisions, and the first thing that 77% of them do when they take over their parents' family office is fire their parents' investment advisor. Because their parents' investment advisor thinks it's about the money. And they say it's not about the money, it's about the mission.
Yeah, I'd just echo that. I had the same thought, that we see that in our portfolio of companies, this sort of virtuous equation of great talent coming to companies with value. And more foundation endowments, for example. You talked about philanthropy. We often have foundations that are giving 1% or a few percent to a good cause, and 95% is invested in companies that are inimical to that cause.
What kind of challenges do you think you'll see as the business scales?
If you like
That's
us
great.
for what we do, then you participate in it. But I don't think we have figured it out. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but we're smart enough to iterate as we go.
I think that for social entrepreneurship, the quintessential investor has been a so-called impact investor, and you've been kind of limited to that niche of person, these type of people over here, and when you've gone away and you've gone to, as Jeff said earlier, the traditional family funds, I guess the younger generation is not taking over quick enough.
You can be solving a problem like Mickey is, or making plastic forks. It doesn't matter. You're going to have an impact as a business. Better to operate your business with this mindset and have a positive impact, and if you do, people will be engaged in your success.
I'm just really interested to know, can you tell me a little bit more about being a B corporation? What do your investors think? Can we dig into that a little bit? What's the net benefit?
It's just a sort of a system to look at each part of your business. How are you treating your employees? Do they have health insurance? Do they have a maternity leave policy that's robust? Do they have a holiday policy that's not bad? And then suppliers, where are the suppliers from? Are the suppliers treated well? Are they paid well? Is the environment, are you screwing up the environment by creating your product? How are you thinking sustainably for your business?
I think long-term the net impact is rosy again, but Etsy was the first one that went public as a B Corp. And so we're going to see how that's going to impact, but it's been, we'll see.
One is a B Corp as certified by B Labs, which is sort of what Mickey's talking about. And then there's a benefit corporation, which is a legal status, right? Which lots of states have adopted benefit corporation statutes. That is sort of so you can codify how you want to operate within your legal system so you're protected.
Well, there's a page in the Conscious Capitalism book that talks about how a conscious business that looks at every stakeholder in a company actually outperforms major indices by multiples.
But yes.
I knew Matt was going to say that.
Things you guys are mentioning are unique to just a small collection of companies at this point. Do you see some of these things translating to mainstream where it just becomes common practice for all companies to institute a lot of these practices without being a specific B Corp, without doing something special like that?
It'll benefit the bottom line, so people will be motivated by that too.
I'd like to thank my phenomenal panelists for sharing